Somewhere between the version of you the world already knows and the version you have been quietly becoming, there is a gap. Taurus, that gap gets a little harder to ignore. And by the end of this, you will understand exactly why. Here is the bigger picture, and it spans more than just today. In Western tropical astrology, Chiron has been moving through your own sign for a stretch that runs across 2026 and into 2027, which means your image, your branding, your outward presentation has been quietly under renovation for a while now. Chiron works like a wound that becomes a doorway, so wherever you have felt slightly out of step with your old persona, that discomfort is not random, it is the invitation itself. That was then, this is now, as the saying goes, and this cycle rewards anyone willing to let their outer signature catch up with who they have actually become underneath. Then there is today's much faster moving sky, and it splits into two honest stories depending on which system you follow. In Western tropical terms, the day opens with the moon in Pisces sitting in your 11th house of friends, forming an opposition to Venus currently occupying your 5th house of creativity and pleasure. Practically, that means a group plan and your actual desire for enjoyment may be pulling in opposite directions this morning. Later, the Western moon shifts into Aries and slips into your 12th house, the house of privacy, rest, and unfinished inner business. That is a real gear change, from socially pulled to instinctively private. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting, because if you follow Vedic or sidereal astrology instead, today's moon is not moving through Pisces or Aries at all, it is sitting steadily in Virgo. That is not a mistake. Both traditions are simply measuring the sky from different starting points roughly 24 degrees apart. And this particular difference matters, because a Virgo moon in Vedic terms brings a notably logical, rational, detail-oriented mood, while the Western picture is describing an emotional retreat into privacy. Put those two together for a moment. One tradition says your feelings want quiet. The other says your mind wants clarity. That is not a contradiction. That is a full toolkit for the same day. You may have noticed this tension already in your own morning, a pull between wanting company and wanting to disappear into your own thoughts instead. That pattern shows up directly in love today. Pleasure and obligation are genuinely competing for your attention, and saying yes to a group plan simply to keep the mood easy could leave you quietly resentful later rather than actually satisfied. Let that sink in for a moment, because Taurus tends to avoid friction, even when the friction is worth having. As the moon settles into that private 12th house territory this afternoon, real desire becomes easier to hear than social consensus. If an old attraction, an unresolved disappointment, or an unfinished conversation surfaces, and it may, the instinct to reach out immediately is understandable, but not necessarily wise. Quiet evening or an honest page of writing will likely tell you more clearly than any text message would, whether you miss the actual person or simply the familiar comfort of them. Not every longing needs a sequel. We will come back to your personal life in a moment, but career deserves its own space here, because the same logical Virgo clarity running underneath today, in Vedic terms, is exactly the tool you need at work. If you have been overly focused on career at the expense of everything else, today favors striking a better balance rather than doubling down further. Professional decisions may now benefit from caution rather than boldness, so steer clear of unnecessary risks, even ones that look tempting. This is a better day to consolidate what is already working than to gamble on something new. That same instinct for balance extends naturally into money. A change of scenery, even a modest one, could realistically open a small financial opportunity you were not actively looking for, so travel plans and cash flow may be more connected today than they first appear. Nothing here suggests a dramatic windfall, but the energy favors staying open to unconventional paths toward a little extra breathing room, rather than forcing the usual routine to produce it. Here is what makes today worth remembering. Two entirely different, respected traditions are looking at the same sky and describing what feels like two different needs. The Western moon asking you to retreat and process alone, the Vedic moon offering you the rational clarity to actually understand what you are processing. Most people watching a horoscope today will treat that as noise. It is not. It is mission to do both at once, to go quiet and stay clear-headed while you are there. Take that quiet clarity into your health and your body today, because Taurus runs on groundedness, and a day like this rewards slowing down rather than pushing through. If you have felt spread thin lately, saying no to one draining obligation or simply rescheduling it can be a genuinely restorative move rather than an avoidance. Some Vedic practitioners associate today's steadier, more analytical mood with the color blue, which is considered a supportive, calming shade for this kind of day, though this is a general association rather than a personal prescription. And any deeper remedy work in Vedic tradition really depends on an individual birth chart rather than a blanket recommendation for every Taurus watching. What is universally safe, though, is simple: wearing a color that settles you, spending a few quiet minutes in nature, or journaling through whatever the 12th house stirred up earlier. Family matters may also weigh more heavily than usual right now, and you might catch yourself holding back your real feelings rather than voicing them outright. That is worth noticing rather than fighting. Give yourself permission to heal at your own pace instead of forcing an emotional conversation before you are ready. If you have been distant from friends while chasing other priorities, today's rational Virgo undercurrent makes it easier to reconnect without drama. A 5 to 6:30 window in the early evening carries a particularly favorable, easy-flowing quality for exactly that kind of catch-up conversation, whether with family or an old friend you have been meaning to call. If a getaway has been on your mind, even a short one, today supports it, particularly if it doubles as a reset rather than just a distraction. Spiritually, this is less a day for big revelations and more a day for sitting with the quieter question Chiron has been asking all year, whether your outward image still matches who you are becoming underneath it. A crossroads does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it just waits quietly at the edge of an ordinary Monday. For a quick reference, blue carries a supportive quality today. The stretch between 5 and 6:30 in the evening favors ease and good timing, and moments of quiet reflection outperform busy socializing for most of the day. So here is where that leaves you. Protect one piece of your evening for genuine quiet rather than obligation. If an old conversation resurfaces, sit with it overnight before responding. Use that early evening window for one honest reconnection, whether with a friend or a family member you have been meaning to reach. And somewhere today, take one small, visible step toward the version of yourself Chiron has been quietly urging forward all year. Even if it is as simple as changing how you show up in a single photo or conversation, you do not need to solve the whole rebrand today. You just need to stop pretending the gap is not there. If this kind of grounded, honest reading is useful to you, staying around for the next one means you will not miss where this story goes next.